the channel. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Join me on today's video for a continuation of a video that I did on the Pagani Design PD1661, the 2021 upgraded version. Now, I started off doing the review on this, but then I ended up pausing because I really wanted to compare it with the older model. Now, we know they have made some changes, and obviously I want to know how many changes they've made and to what extent they've gone to. The main change, as all you guys know, was that the bezel was greatly improved. And it's something that every YouTuber, every person who owns a Pagani is always talking about. So on today's video, the task at hand is to take the older Pagani Design PD1661, compare it with the newer 2021 version, and actually find out how many things are actually different. Now, we know when you do comparisons like these, that even though they look exactly the same, when you do go into the detail, you do find a fair few differences. So for this review, I'm only going to point out the differences. Both watches are very popular. In fact, the 1661, the 40mm, has sold in the thousands, and even its predecessor, the 43mm. So literally sold out, thousands and thousands of these pieces. So let's find out what they have changed. Now, make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Hit the notification bell to make sure you're up to date with all the latest reviews. And what I also want you guys to do is look in the description, where you will find a link to my new Facebook group. I would like all the subscribers, everybody watching, to go ahead and join the group. It's actually called The Watcher, and it's an open format, open platform for everyone just to talk and discuss. And the idea behind it is a bit of a Patreon style service without obviously asking you guys to pay for it via YouTube. So you'll get behind the scenes stuff, pictures of watches that have come in, etc., and just discussion place for everyone just to just collaborate and bit of a community sort of feature. So let's go ahead, let's get stuck in and find out what exactly is different. So let's start off with the dial. Now, the main thing which does stand out, and you can see, is that the logo at the 12, which says Pagani Design Explorer on the left. On the right, you've got Pagani Design without the Explorer part. Now, it's a subjective change. It doesn't really do anything for me. It doesn't make it better or makes it worse, not at all. Obviously, it's just cleaned up the dial slightly, give you just a bit more dial clearness. Now, the second thing is there's a bit of debate on the actual magnification glass here. Now, I personally don't see much of a difference. On certain numbers, certain angles, you do see just a touch more clarity with the 2021 version, but there isn't enough for me to definitely tell you guys if it has improved or not. Now, on the dial, there is no other difference, and we're going to go have a look at the Lume shot now to see what is different there. So definitely no surprises in the Lume department. Both are barely visible. Now, both watches have been under the same LED lights that I have in this room, and they've not charged up. So what I've done now, I've had to put them under the UV lamp. And what I'm going to do is really fast forward through this and just to see how long this Lume does last. Now, the length of time that I recorded this for was for actually only 3 minutes. So you can see how badly they've degraded through those 3 minutes. So it's, there's no longevity, and any speculation as to if the Lume has improved on the 2021 version is absolutely incorrect. The Lume has not been touched at all. So let's look at the one thing that we do know has changed 100%, and that was the bezel. Now, this is a 60 click. Sometimes you get them at 90, but I believe I said this was 60. Yeah, 60 click. Now, 60 click for the most part isn't bad, but it's the way that this moves. It's quite loose. There's a bit of side play, lateral play in the bezel, and it just doesn't feel that solid at all. Now, the thing with 120 clicks, that's what's common out there, and that is something which we're all used to. So it's always nice to see that. Now, when we move across to the 2021 version, they've absolutely nailed it. 120 clicks. A very nice click as well, very satisfying. Alignment is good, very solid. There's no side play, lateral play. In fact, that's a very nice bezel. So they've got that spot on. Now, there's another difference, which is actually in the detail and the design. and the machining of the bezel. I'll put up some pictures where I need to just make it a little bit more clear so you guys can see that clearly, and you should see that now. Further differences come in after the bezel. You're going to find them around the case and the crown. So when we have a look at the crown guards, I'll put up some pictures there. So there is a roughly 0.7 mil difference between the sides of the crown guards. The pictures should actually really make that clear and allow you to see it. Now, secondary to that, you have a difference in the actual crown. Now, the crown is also bigger on the newer one. It's roughly 0.3 mil wider in diameter. And you also have the presence of an O-ring, which is just visible. There's an O-ring in the original crown, which is right at the bottom, but this is just an additional O-ring. But it hasn't had an effect on the water resistance rating at all, the fact that they've added an O-ring. Now, another difference there is when we look at these is in the actual finish of the actual crown and crown guards. So what I like to point out here is on this version, the 2021, the crown, it doesn't look like it's meeting the case really well. It does look quite odd. I prefer on the first one how, if you look at the lugs, and again the pictures that I'll show up will make it a lot clearer, is you can see the shoulders of the lugs sort of to help tuck that crown in, and it gives it a much better profile and sort of a, you know, tucked in finish. But when you look at the 2021, there's quite a bit of a gap between the crown guards and the crown, and it just doesn't seem to be as good as it is on the version 1. It's not finished as well, and you can see how there's quite a gap there. I would have preferred for this crown also to be just slightly tucked in. Now the next notable difference is, and this is probably the last difference here, is when we look at the side profile of the case. Now I did say at the start of this comparison that both watches are exactly the same. Let's assume that. Now the only difference they actually have is when it comes to the lug to lug dimension. The diameter is the same and the thickness is the same. The lug to lug on the 2021 version is just slightly longer. So you can see the side profile of the version 1. And if you compare that to version 2, okay, there is a 0.5 mil approximate difference between the lug to lug of both. And you can also see that one is considerably thicker, just not the case thickness, but the actual thickness of this, the side of the case, minus the crystal, the bezel, and the case back. That measures at 5.9 with a lug to lug of 47.3. Now the 2021 version, the newer version, let's just take off these fingerprints. The lug to lug on this is 47.8, and the actual side profile of the case, the thickness, is 5.4 millimeters. So 0.5 mil difference. Now visually you can't tell, it does make a difference, but dimensionally and the way it's going to fit your wrist is not going to make that much of a difference at all. Let's just do a wrist check on both. What am I wearing? I've got the Proxima tuner with the red dial NH36, and I've got it on a Heimdallr tuner bracelet, and I think they are a perfect match. So let's take this off. So here it is, the version 1 PD1661, and we compare that to, so like I said, dimensionally you really can't see anything. It's just visually and in hand, where the side profile is just a bit thinner because the lug to lug is just a touch longer, but you know, it's the same more or less. Now something on the bracelet, the newer one, the one in black, comes with a polished center link. Now they do a Kermit version, which is, you know, green and black, which comes with full brushed. Now I don't know what is happening with that sort of discrepancy, but I believe you can get them all with brushed center links as well, and that is a preference. In fact, I do have the green, the Kermit one here in hand, and you can see the bracelet is fully brushed. While I have this here, let's do a consistency check. Let's check the bezel on this one. It's actually a touch better than the black one. But they're both good, and I like that. So, you know, Pagani Design have finally, after, you know, how long, fixed one of the major flaws on their watches. Secondly, they need to really now focus on the lume, and the lume, as you saw, is still absolutely terrible. And the, you know, the beauty here is what they've shown you. They've improved the bezel without actually adding anything to the cost. These watches are still sub £70, sub, you know, $100. So, you know, they can do that, and honestly, I don't think anybody would mind spending an extra $5 or $10 just to get really good lume. Now, summarize, what do you think about the improvements? Okay, I think what I do like, number one, I like the fact that the case is just a touch longer. It gives you a slimmer profile on the side. I do prefer that. What I do obviously like is the bezel, of course, the bezel rotation. And that's it, you know. As I said, the Explorer on the dial, Pagani Design, I wasn't really fussed if that's there or not. But what I don't like about the 2021 version is I can't stand the crown. I think it's just such a mismatch, because they had it right, you know, when they've done the 40mm, the crown tucks in, that looks, you know, great. But I think they've messed it up quite badly here, because you can't unsee this now, and it just sticks out like a sore thumb. And that's something they really should have thought about. And the next thing what you can do is actually just reduce the size, reduce the diameter of the crown to make it sit in, and that's it, because you don't want to really remake the case to get new crown guards engraved, etc. But there is a bit of a gap between the crown guards, so that area is not good. But in terms of the bezel, as we know, much better, and the case much better. But the price hasn't changed, so we're getting an improvement without necessarily paying any more. So I suppose it is a plus. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that comparison. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.